music, magic, and meaning. Of course, there are many ways to describe a good poem, but those three criteria have served me very well working with people and poetry over many years. So I want to talk about those three characteristics of great poetry by bringing a poem, and we'll talk about and we'll sort of define them after we do the poem. But I have a kind of poster child poem, which I think brings all three of those: the music, the magic, and the meaning. And that poem is by the amazing poet, Mary Oliver. And it's one of her poems. It's called In Blackwater Woods. And I'll tell you also a little story after I read the poem about why the poem has particular meaning for me right now. So, In Blackwater Woods by Mary Oliver. Poem goes like this. Look, look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light. Look, look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light, are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds, and every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now, is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned, every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads to this. The fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation. Whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes, to let it go, to let it go. To live in this world, says Mary Oliver, to live in this world, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes, to let it go, to let it go. So the poem has great meaning for me at this moment in my life because I will be speaking at a longtime friend memorial service in a few days, and I intend to use this poem. And I think it is powerful, and we'll talk about the meaning in just a minute. But first, the music. Remember our three criteria. And I think this poem, if you think about the music, the sounds, the rhymes, the rhythms, the luxurious vowels, like in if we say God, and then the consonant, which is a kind of completing that also allows us to have an amazing sound, the that we make with our tongue when we are speaking consonants after the vowel. And so the sounds and rhythms, I was thinking that, when it says, look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light, are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. It's the way those sounds and those syllables just kind of luxuriously fall off the tongue and come in those kind of, the word I've been using is luxurious. And then for the second criteria, the magic. Well, the magic for me is the images and the metaphors, because those images they come in the poem, and it's like the images lift right up off the page, lift right up into our voices, our imaginations, and the metaphors help us redefine our place in the world, our place with other people that we love and care for. In some cases, like this, where a dear friend has moved on to another plane. And this poem has been helpful to me and many others for a long time, for many years because of that. But these metaphors that Mary Oliver uses, look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light. Think about that image. We can get that because it takes something that is abstract and turns it into an image, or the image and the metaphor of the blue shoulders of the ponds. We just kind of imagine that. We can step into that. Also, the other senses, the magic in a poem comes from invoking the other senses. In this case, Mary Oliver's talking about giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. Well, does fulfillment have a scent? Well, I suppose it does, and it grounds us in that. And then finally, we talked about music and magic, which are the images and the metaphors. And then we talked about, and then the third is meaning. And in this poem, I love, there's a couple of places in this poem where it just comes at us like a speeding freight train. When she says, every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads to this, the fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation. Now, there's so much meaning. And again, of course, the context of this is loss. And the context of this is losing a dear one. You imagine the protagonist in the poem. And so the meaning of the poem has to do with this very straightforward kind of thing about what it requires. And I love the way she ends the poem. And she says, to live in this world, to live in this world. Now here comes the meaning, the wisdom. We could even say wisdom. I think that's not an overstatement. To live in this world, Mary Oliver says toward the end of the poem, to live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes, to let it go, to let it go. When the time comes, to let it go, to let it go. I think there's so much reverence and wisdom in those lines that what a gift. So as you think about this poem and others, think about the gift of music, of magic, images, metaphors, and then meaning. As you step into the poem, as we say on this podcast over and over again, as you step into the poem and you make your own meaning. Because as we've said many times, a poem is not complete until you and I, till the listener, till the reader steps inside the poem and has our own full experience. That's when the poem is complete. And that experience has everything to do with the music of the language, the sounds, and the, as we said, the luxurious vowels and the completing consonants. Unless it has, and it must have, the magic of imagery and metaphors to lift up off the page. And then finally, the meaning that is ours to discover and to grok and to get as we walk inside the poem and have our own unique experience. As always, thanks so much for your listening ear. And If you know someone who may appreciate the way we talk about poetry on this podcast, then of course, send it along. I'd love to get more poetry out into the world. That's one of the deep missions I have in life. Uh, yeah. So thank you again for your listening ear. Until next time and next poem, take good care of yourself. And if you can, someone else.